have, I don't believe they have a franchise agreement to where the county gets a 7% on the tonnage. You know, our garbage haulers pay not only a franchise agreement to the county, but they pay a what is it, $4.50 to MSWA, which is actually, those are passed through back to the person that has the trash can. But this issue, Kendall, transfer employees, you talk about doing a study and everything. We do that almost on a weekly basis. We have a position where it goes from, I mean, departments to budget units. We don't need no studies to do that. We do that on a weekly basis. Scott mentioned the fact of, yeah, I understand, if you take away and privatize some of the functions that a person at solid waste does, yes, maybe if you do some of those, that's the whole idea. You're going to have less employees, and that's where the budget savings is going to come in. You know, because they'll be done. The private sector will do that. Whether it's the same employee offered a job by Waste Management or Jerry Ward, or, as we've stated many times, if that individual doesn't want to be an employee of those private companies, in our system, we have plenty of positions that are opening in other areas. But I don't think we need to do an actuarial study to take a position and put it, say from solid waste into Department of Transportation, or you know, maybe in our whole system we got a lot of different job classifications out there. My point is, nobody that has a county job is going to be ousted from their job or even their employment reduced. But as some of the functions of solid waste decrease, yes, they will be taken over by the private sector. Hauling of leachate. Maybe the county, for the few loads of leachate that it hauls, maybe we don't need to maintain an employee in a truck. Maybe that can be privatized to a septage hauler. You know, there's not a large amount of septage coming from our landfills anymore, which is great. That's a good thing. But, you know, to me, this whole issue is, frankly, I pushed for the whole county to go this way 12 years ago. And with recycling and everything, the way it's materialized, and this county has went through a lot of expense, millions of dollars of closing the landfills and getting us to this point. It's time where the citizens of Mendocino County start to benefit. And if we can save, by privatization of these transfer stations, if we can just save $50,000, $100,000, maybe that's 40 for the library and 30 for the Arts Council. Those are the things that we're going to be faced with here next budget time. And we're going to have to work together to make these things happen. But once again, this is not an issue about solid waste of Mendocino County, the Division of Solid Waste doing a bad job. Nobody said that, nobody's indicated. I don't want anybody to take it that way.
Yeah, I hope not.
No, that's not what the issue here is. It's just a better and a different way of doing government to try to give us a little flexibility. And I think, as Supervisor Delbar stated, for the private companies to offer buyback at the locations is better. And keep in mind, one of the reasons that these transfer stations and buyback centers in the private sectors like Covelo and Laytonville are where they are at the landfills is because I was on the board then. We had a $5 million general fund deficit at that time. That's the savings being $5 million overdrawn in your bank account. That's where we had to start from. So where did we put these transfer stations? The only piece of property that we had that was available, and it was a good location. People were used to going to the dump site, so instead of going to the dump, they went to the recycling facility. So it was a kind of a natural place. But that's the only reason that these transfer stations are located on the landfill sites. But, you know, this is, like I say, again, this is not about solid waste of Mendocino County doing a bad job. This is about trying to look at how we do over the functions of things. Like I said, in Sonoma County, that's what they did. They said, you know what, we're going to privatize what we can, and the functions that we can't, they turned it over to their water agency. You know, we're still going to have a solid waste division. That's not going away because we got the landfill functions, you have your franchise agreements, and there's plenty of things for 2 or 3 or 4 people to do. That's not the issue. This is not a total doing away with the solid waste division. There's no way. We're going to be in the solid waste division for probably 30 more years.
Yeah, there'd still be a net county cost just in the administration.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we still have the franchise fee revenues to cover that.
Well,
But the thing about, and that is the point that has baffled me about the supervisor pinches, is that it seems this proposal, unlike Sonoma County, where they're basically going to just get out of the garbage business at a county level altogether, is it seems that Solid Waste Division is being asked to assume a role of what I like to call a mini Public Utilities Commission, where we'll continue to monitor franchise agreements, look over different providers. You got to remember that Solid Waste of Willits, it won't be the only franchisee. They won't be there forever and infinity. So the Solid Waste Division will have to monitor, look at rates, make sure the public's being treated fairly. The other thing, right now, Mendocino County Code, basically once we issue a franchise, other people can't compete. So privatization usually has associated with it, the ability for competition to occur, which lets market forces control where a rate should be. Sonoma County, you can have competing entities. There is no limitation there. One of the most difficult things this department had to do was prevent a person from conducting commercial activities here in the Ukiah area because they violated our county code. We have a legalized monopoly, if you will, within the franchise areas. Therefore, we act as a little mini Public Utilities Commission, and that function would stay. It seems to me, and I guess one of the things I can't get my hands around, that if we're going to privatize, it should be everything. It shouldn't just be the transfer station function of the Solid Waste Division, which is potentially or is really profitable in that it's some of our operations we, with the exception of Supervisor Smith and the general fund subsidy that to keep the rates down to hopefully keep illegal dumping from going up, they basically balance out. They work. And, it just seems like we're going halfway to something that is akin to granting a monopoly. That's how I read the proposal. I'm sorry, I need to be set straight.
Well, you can't separate. It'd be nice to say...
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. We're getting into a debate back and forth, and I'd like to hear from Mr. Ward.
Well, I'd like to,
but you're
as
next.
Chair who's been trying to get into this discussion for the past half hour.
Mr. Koufax, go ahead.
Thank you for your generosity. First, a half hour ago, I wanted to say that our Director of Transportation does not need to take responsibility for what has come before us today. That was clearly directed by this board. Don't invest a lot of time spinning around trying to figure out what a proposal is, what will be done, what will not be done. So I'd like to be really clear about that this is not something that should be faulted in any direction. I commend you for your concerns, and I commend you for the work you've brought forward. The reason we made that statement, or at least a majority of us on the board made that statement some time ago, was because we wanted to avoid a non-discussion of the order we're having right now. I sit on the same committee trying to deal with the problems between the Casper station and the arrangements we have with the city of Fort Bragg, and it is a mess. Supervisor Smith represents the district and has to say she's learned a lot. I've burned a lot of time and a lot of rubber going to those meetings, and I'm not sure that I've learned anything at all. The reality here is this is a proposal that's been brought forward to us. As it stands right now, having gone through it twice and looked at it, there are so many questions that are created in that process, in what has been brought before us. And I think that the county has done a pretty good job of summarizing, doing a critical evaluation to the extent that it can be done. But as far as I'm concerned, this proposal, with all due respect to Mr. Ward, for whom I've got the greatest respect in terms of what he's done and the role he's played in the county and so forth, this proposal does not take into account the complexities that this board has to deal with immediately